Roar!
Tiny Twilight H2.0 by Moonlit Path. What's that?
Twily, I'm gonna get you. No, you're not, princess.
Giggling, the little filly ran into the water as Celestia used her magic to levitate a bucket into the lake. Tilting the rim down, it quickly filled up with water.
Yes, I am.
Twilight started trotting further into the lake.
I'm too fast for you.
Smirking, Celestia started pouring the bucket of water over Twilight's head, causing a high-pitched squeal.
Hey, how'd you do that?
Still dripping wet, Twilight ran up to the shore and rolled over on her back.
Levitation? Why don't you try?
Celestia reached over and started tickling Twilight. Levitating the bucket over, she went over the spell again. Spreading her hoofs apart, Twilight let her tongue slip out of the corner of her mouth. Her horn was glowing as the bucket started to raise up.
So, like this? Yes, very good, Twilight. Now, can you try taking it over to the water? Yes!
Trotting over to the water, Celestia couldn't help but smile.
I meant just the bucket, but I guess I can let it slide this time. I should have been more specific.
Taking the handle in her mouth, Twilight filled up the bucket and started running after Celestia.
It's your turn now!
Laughing, Celestia rolled over and allowed Twilight to pour the water over her forehead and horn. Truth was, the cold water felt really good on the hot summer day.
Princess! I've been working on a new spell. Do you want to see it?
Tilting the bucket over, Twilight poured the other half onto herself. Shaking her head slightly to dry off, she couldn't help but wonder. She had just learned levitation.
What's your trick? I can make water look like a fish!
She exclaimed, running back into the water. Kicking her shoes off onto the blanket, Celestia followed her into the water.
How, pray tell, do you do that? Watch!
A moment later, a small orb of water began floating, warping itself into the silhouette of a goldfish.
Where did you learn that?
The alicorn walked around, whispering.
How can a filly so young be capable of doing this? Cadence and Shiny taught me! Oh, really?
Taking the water fish in her magic, she started making it swim around Twilight. Twilight started spinning in an attempt to keep up with it. After a couple of spins, she fell on her flank, dizzy, but laughing.
I can make it bigger!
Creating her stance, she started levitating more water to the small fish.
Princess, I feel funny.
Her purple eyes started glowing white as her aura brightened.
Twilight, disconnect your magic. I don't know if I can.
Her voice wavering slightly in fear. Worried, Celestia started casting a limiting spell. She was a little too late. The water Twilight had been levitating started circling around her, engulfing the filly in an orb of white and blue.
Princess, this tickles!
Twilight wiggled. Standing in shock, Celestia secretly wanted to know what had happened. At least she was laughing and not crying out in pain. A moment later, the spell dispersed and Twilight fell into the water. Her hoofs were replaced by a tail, and she had little fins that reminded the alicorn of wings. Trying to stand up, she noticed she was having trouble moving.
Princess, what happened? Do you remember how you lost control of your magic during the entrance exam? You turned Spike into a giant and your parents into plants? Of course! That isn't something you forget so easily.
Walking over, she levitated Twilight further into the water where she could start swimming.
The same thing just happened now. This is why you need to learn better control over your magic.
Finally being able to look down for the first time, she noticed her new form.
I'm a sea pony! Yes, you are.
Turning around, she started going through the spells she knew.
Now, how are we going to change you back? But I don't want to change back!
Twilight whined.
I like being like this! Twilight.
Giggling, Celestia ran into the water and started splashing her young student.
Don't worry, I will have to change you back into a pony. Don't worry, I'll do it when it's time to go back. Okay, princess. Until then...
Taking a deep breath, Twilight dove underwater and out of view of Celestia. Looking around, she realized she was able to breathe underwater.
This is so cool!
The princess looked around for a moment, quickly realizing her faithful student couldn't be seen anymore.
Horse feathers.
Casting an oxygen bubble around her head, Celestia dove under the water herself.
Twilight, where are you? Look! What kind of fish is this? Please don't let curiosity kill the catfish.
Sighing, she went over to the sea pony.
That, my dear, is called a catfish. You need to be careful around him, though. See those spikes? They can cut you. He also bites.
Clapping her hoofs together, Celestia started imitating a shark's mouth.
The monster's going to get me!
Laughing, Twilight did a quick flip before swimming away. Chasing after her, the alicorn was quickly getting worn out, not used to dealing with someone with such high energy.
I'm going to get you, and I'm going to eat you in a giant hug!
Reaching out, she grabbed Twilight and started tickling her again. Squealing, Twilight squirmed in the embrace.
No monster can beat Twilight Sparkle!
Finally managing to wiggle out of the two large hoofs, she swam under Celestia, then up into the pastel mane. Sticking her head through, she gave her mentor a quick kiss on the cheek.
I love you, Mrs. Monster! I love you too, Mrs. Sea Pony. Now, what did you say about the monster not getting you?
Turning around, she went to grab Twilight again before realizing she disappeared. Looking down, she saw the purple sea pony rolling around in the grass and seaweed.
I'll need to remember this for next time,
Celestia whispered, watching her young student playing.
Hopefully she'll sleep good tonight, or at least wear off some of that energy.
Sighing in exhaustion, Celestia went down and trapped her on the grass with a wing.
I got you, Mrs. Sea Pony. Any last words? What's that? I'm not falling for that.
Smiling, it took every ounce of willpower not to look behind her. Wiggling out from under her wing, she started heading towards the rock.
What's that? Ah.
Naturally, she was the one filly who could go from playing like that to wanting to learn.
That, my dear, is called a starfish.
Twilight started rubbing it with one of her fins.
It feels weird.
Going over, Celestia carefully picked the starfish up with her hoof.
Don't actually do it, but there's something really cool about them. If you break a leg off, it'll grow back. Really?
Closing her eyes slightly, Celestia knew it was nap time for the 4-year-old pony. They had already been at the lake for half the day.
Yeah. Okay, Twilight, it's time to go. It's getting late.
Wrapping a hoof around Twilight's barrel, she started bringing her back to the surface of the water.
But I don't want to go yet!
With a yawn, she involuntarily started snuggling into her embrace. Feeling the added pressure, Celestia started holding her a little tighter.
When we get back, I'll get you some cookies and hot chocolate. How does that sound? Yummy!
The purple sea pony mumbled. It amazed Celestia how fast she could fall asleep sometimes. Then again, she barely slept the night before because she was so excited to be going to the lake.
Let's go then.
Reaching the shore, she cast a quick reverse spell, changing the sea pony back into the adorable little filly she knew and loved.
Can we do this again, princess? I want to learn more about the flora and fauna down there. I don't see why not.
Drying the two of them with a spell, she slowly lifted Twilight onto her back. The filly quickly snuggled into the warm feathers.
I want to be a starfish next. Then I can break my leg and have it grow back. I'll be the only filly, no, the only pony who can say they have done that.
A moment later, her eyes closed and she was sound asleep. Sighing with a shake of her head, she reached back and nuzzled the filly.
What have I gotten myself into?
Author's note. I took a break from writing about mermaids to write about a sea pony. That makes logical sense, right? No, I don't care. It was fun. Don't judge, please. I give you a cookie. Hope you enjoyed. Hello everyone, this is Visual Pony from Pony&Wolf Productions, and I thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this video. At this point, I want to thank all of our amazing patrons on Patreon for supporting this channel with their monthly donations and keeping the lights on around here. Now, more than ever, it is important that you support your favorite content creators, because due to YouTube's new content policy changes, we, along with other content creators, had to demonetize a lot of our most profitable videos. For us, those are the Fallout Equestria stories. As you can see on the graph on screen right now, our earnings per video used to be relatively okay, even though the earnings were never enough for a viable career. It was enough for a good, decent side income. Now we are struggling to pay our bills. If you want to support us for as little as $1 a month, you can do so by clicking on our Patreon link down in the description below. And you can get wonderful perks like, for example, early access to all of our stuff. Sometimes things like this are recorded months in advance. Voice acting lessons from me or Midnight, if you really want to. And you can join our Patreon Discord server. Even though it may look like there's not much going on in there, I am actually checking it on the daily. Thank you for listening to this message, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day.